It gives me great pleasure now to bring on board Mr. Madhavan Menon of Thomas Cook to talk about how much of the pandemic pain is behind. Now remember, travel and tourism is one sector which has got badly hit because of pandemic. But a brand like Thomas Cook, if at all, is in an enviable position, because when there is going to be a market share gain and when business will revive, which one day it will, all of us will travel, all of us have the need to travel, it could be a disproportionate winner. Mr. Menon, fantastic to have you back. I'm seeing you after a while. Good to see that we are talking to you at a time when times are tough, but your smile never fades away.
I hope I don't look different through all the pain that we've gone through, Nikunj. Good morning.
Well, it's been a tough year for everybody, Mr. Menon, and it's been a tough year particularly for the business which you represent. I'll ask you some very basic questions and elementary questions, because this is a business where we'll have to completely rely on your judgment and your guidance to understand the way forward. How much of your business now is back on track, and what has been the drop in your total business?
So, Nikunj, let me go back to March 2020 when the international borders were shut post the declaration of the pandemic by the WHO. Our revenues across the world just ground to a halt. Starting June, when Thomas Cook was declared as an essential service on the foreign exchange side, we started opening our network. So if we come right to today, the foreign exchange network is fully operational. We have recovered approximately 43% of our revenue from a year ago. As far as the holiday business has been concerned, as you rightly said earlier, it's been a little slow. But in the last month or so, we've begun to see a clear move towards people traveling, overcoming the fears. And this has been as a result of the popularity of a destination within India like Goa, Kashmir now picking up, the Andamans having picked up, and internationally the opening of the Maldives and Dubai about a month ago have really helped things. So on the holiday front, while the numbers are very small, Nikunj, we are still seeing a doubling of volumes. And just to give you an example, just this past week, we saw a higher volume than we had witnessed in the last 4 months. So in reality, I think holidays is making a comeback. Of course, none of this will be totally fulfilled until the international borders are opened. And I think we're still some while away from that. But in the meanwhile, domestic holidays is the flavor. Lastly, as far as the corporate businesses are concerned, corporate travel is picking up very, very slowly. We are barely at 20% of our capacity that we had a year ago in terms of turnover. MICE will take even longer, because I think, obviously, you'll appreciate group travel at this point of time is frowned on, and corporates will have to regain the confidence both from their own sales as well as overcome the concerns of individual travelers in a group regarding the impact of COVID. But my expectation is that things will look up from here. The worst is over, which is why you see me smiling a little more than I may have done a couple of months ago.
If I work with the assumption that the vaccine would be administered soon, could FY25 be a year of big return for Thomas Cook? Will you go back to, let's say, the kind of optimism and the kind of business which you had in the pre-COVID period? What we're trying to understand from you, sir, is the following. One, we are assuming that vaccine will come out in next 6 months. That will give people confidence to travel. And when confidence to travel will come back, will your business bounce back like a V?
So, Nikunj, before I answer your question, let me just add a few data points which may be of help. For the financial year 2020-21, the group will save approximately 560 crores in costs. That's about 50%. As we go into 21-22, our expectation is that out of this, at least about 225 crores will be permanent savings, 220 to 225 crores will be permanent savings. And this is as a result of the enhancement of technology that Thomas Cook has undertaken. Now, coming back to your question, my expectation is that 2022 will see a return to normalcy if I were to look at 2019, and 2023 will be a full-blown return to normalcy in each of our line of businesses. And I take this point from the fact that people need to travel, as you mentioned earlier. Corporates need to get back to normalcy, and the reality is that especially the manufacturing industry and the IT industry are already seeing return to normalcy. So my expectation is that group travel in the form of, from a corporate point of view, MICE will happen in the last quarter of next year. If you're talking about retail travel, I expect that the minute the borders are open and regulations regarding arrival at destinations as well as issuance of visas is clarified, we should see travel. Just to give you an example, I was reading in the papers this morning that Singapore plans to announce permission of business travelers starting in the new year. To me, that is a huge achievement, and I expect several countries in Southeast Asia to follow in quick succession. If that works, my expectation is that tourism will also come back in quick succession. So as fast as business went away, I would hope, and I wouldn't use the word be surprised, because many things have surprised me in this pandemic. I would hope that we would see a quicker return. So to me, 21, 22, a degree of normalcy, 22, 23, full-blown return to normalcy.
You know, I'm speaking to after a while, so you'll appreciate that I've got lots of questions, and I'm going to blend my next two questions into one. One is, you're a cash-rich company.
Yes.
And before the pandemic also, we had cash in your books. How much of your cash you were able to preserve? Because when the business was shut, you were still paying salaries, you still had expenses, you still were paying your staff.
So, Nikunj, let me again qualify my statement. If you look at salaries, as early as March, we decided to cut salaries of people from top to bottom. The organizations within India as well as abroad went into a salary cut very quickly. We then started cutting unnecessary expenditure. You know, any expenditure that was not required in the absence of business or revenues, we cut it. So as on date, at a group level, we have approximately, I think we've saved about 370 crores between March and September, and are on target to exceed the 560 crores that I mentioned to you. Now, having said this, we've focused ourselves on conserving cash 100%. This is all that we have done right from April. And, you know, obviously as business started coming back, we started increasing the focus on business. But as on date, we have nearly 700 crores of cash on our balance sheet. And this is more than adequate to take us over the next couple of quarters. And my expectation is that as business starts back, we will look at various avenues of raising funding, because at that stage, we will have people who are willing to subscribe to any funding that we want.
A lot of companies, Mr. Menon, we've interacted with, they are sharing the following with us, that don't focus on a top line. Our top line will contract because of business conditions, but our efficiency, cost cutting, is so powerful that our margins will expand. Could that be the story for Thomas Cook? While some of us always focus on the top line growth to understand the growth of the business, your business is going to go through a churn. Normalization may not happen before 12 to 18 months. Should one not focus on the top line growth and focus on other ratios where you could have an advantage because of cost cutting and other measures?
Nikunj, I expect all the cost cutting to drop straight to the bottom line. I also expect that the efficiencies will now permit us to scale up as and when normalcy returns without incurring additional expenses. And this is something that we focused on right from day one in March, April, when we decided that our IT team had downtime. We decided to enhance our technology. So today, as we stand, any transaction that a customer wishes to undertake in the retail space with Thomas Cook can be done without any contact. In addition to this, we have taken several initiatives. For example, the Thomas Cook Assured program, because we recognize that hygiene has taken a different degree of importance in the post-COVID environment. We tied up with an ICMR-approved testing facility. We have added COVID insurance to each and every one of our customers. So in reality, we are doing everything within our means to induce travel. And I fully understand, people are concerned whether they will catch COVID from any form of travel. And, one thing that really bothers me is the number of myths that are out there. For example, aircraft travel. Experts have very clearly identified aircraft travel as being the safest. And there have been very few instances where, somebody has picked up the infection unless somebody had it even before they entered the aircraft. But in reality, aircraft travel is very safe. And I think people are beginning to realize it. A third point, I think, there is so much lockdown fatigue in the system. My expectation is that volumes will come back. Now, it takes people to travel for others to get the confidence. This is a word-of-mouth business. Let's not kid ourselves. When if a relative travels and comes back, the next person turns around and says, wow, they did it, why can't I do it? So if you look at flights to Goa today, it took some time to catch up, but the reality is flights are full. If you look at a flight to the Andamans or to the Maldives, airfares have soared. Having said all this, I expect that our EBITDA margins will definitely increase, partly because we have saved the costs. The gross margins, I think, will go through a cycle. If I sort of use the starting of that cycle right now where we are inducing travel, we will have to give enough incentives to the traveler to travel. And as you know, travel is a very cost-focused, cost demand. The cost of a trip drives demand. And therefore, my expectation is that over a period of time, we will actually see our gross margins back to normal and our net margins increase.
Mr. Menon, it's such a pleasure interacting with you after a while. I urge you to just stay on with us for a few seconds. We're coming right back to the interview. Welcome back. We're in conversation with Mr. Madhavan Menon of Thomas Cook, and he's been giving us insight into the travel industry and how business as well is picking up. Mr. Menon, thank you so much for patiently waiting by. You were talking about that travel fatigue really setting in, or lockdown fatigue rather, and how people are now resuming travel. But you also alluded to the fact that the company is undertaking a lot of new offerings in order to assure travelers. There have been the flash sales, be it the, the first virtual holiday store, discounts as well that have ranged from 10 to 20%. I just want to elaborate a little bit more on the margins. Don't you think that is going to compromise your margins, or are you confident that the cost-saving measures will lead to healthy margins, gross as well as your overall operating margins in the long haul?
If you divide the current situation into a couple of compartments, right now we are inducing travel. We need to induce customers to travel. And as a leading player in the industry, I think that is a responsibility that we have. That's something that the industry as a whole is trying to achieve right now. My expectation is that as travel starts picking up, these discounts will disappear. We'll be back to normalcy. But an important thing that we've done in addition to inducing travel is to enter partnerships. Now, if you look at the partnerships that we have with Indian hotels, that we have with the Marriott Group, that we have with Accor on one side, we have entered into a partnership with Apollo Clinics for the Thomas Cook Assured program. Additionally, what we're doing is that we are making weekly offers on select destinations and hotels, obviously working with the hotels to make the price attractive. And we've seen a lot of traction around that. I must admit that when Diwali came, there was a little apprehension whether people should book or not. Then came the announcement from certain state governments that they were putting quarantine restrictions in terms of travelers from certain destinations. But now, regardless of these announcements, the reality is that people have regained some degree of confidence. And as I mentioned earlier, flights are filling up a lot more than they did earlier. The holiday travelers, and for example, just go to Goa. Between now, more than a week ago, till the end of the year, most of Goa is already sold out, and people are now fighting to get rooms. And mind you, the rates in Goa have not stayed static. They've actually gone up. So my expectation is that this will go through a cycle, and our margins will get resolved through as we advance on this cycle, and we will protect our bottom line. Right now, the focus is on trying to induce travel, conserving our cash, at the same time trying to enhance our productivity through both technology as well as our ability to reach out to the customer. And an example of this is the virtual store. Today, both our call centers as well as our sales staff and branches are connected into a virtual store where a customer can connect with us. We can talk to them, be it online, be it through a call or through a video conference. And this is an omni-channel strategy that we figured out a year ago. But, we had originally planned it over a 2-year period, but COVID has sort of induced us to bring it out in an 8-month period. Now, I think that's a major benefit. This brings about huge productivity benefits. So the reality is, even though we haven't opened our offices, very few people are necessarily coming into our branches. The reality is we're able to connect with each and every customer, both new as well as existing, and ensure that their travel requirements are taken care of.
Mr. Menon, it's been a pleasure chatting with you. Thank you so much for taking time out and just giving us a deeper insight into your business, the way things have turned. And yes, indeed, everything is now at the click of a button, and your company too has adapted to this technological transformation. But good interacting with you after such a long time.
Thank you. And